All right, so our next topic
Yeah.
leads us into our big topic of the day, which is the Cleveland trade value rankings. But to get there, let's start with a proposed trade that was thrown out on a podcast over the weekend in jest. Zach Lowe, ESPN's NBA
Why would he
insider.
throw out a trade in jest?
They were just talking. It was him, Jonathan Givony,
Yeah.
and Bobby Marks just talking about trades, hypothetical trades. I think would spice up the league if they wanted to have some fun. Like they weren't saying these were talked about. These would be fun trades.
By the way, nothing spicy about this trade at all. I don't know, how's this trade very spicy?
It's not really spicy.
Go
I
ahead.
tend to agree with you on that side, but they're just throwing out a couple potential options, and one of them that popped up that then, as it does in the Twitter sphere, if it says it, then it gets aggregated as they're reporting it, and if you go back and listen, they were just talking about hypothetical options. They proposed this. How about Kristaps Porzingis to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Jared Allen, Dean Wade, Jetty Osman, and a couple of second-round picks?
See, here's the thing. Before we get into the fact, obviously, Jason's going to lose his mind about why this trade would never happen, and that's fine. Before we get to it, here's what happened. Because this Wizards-Suns trade, the Wizards got completely destroyed in this deal. Not that Bradley Beal is that great, but they got nothing for him.
Yep.
Because that happened, now every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks, well, my team can make a trade where we get nothing. The thing with Bradley Beal, which made it weird, is he, and you would know better than I, Jason, I believe is one of the very few players that had a no-trade clause.
Yeah.
Those things, that's big in baseball. It doesn't really happen in the NBA that much. Why they gave it to him, I have no idea. So he basically said to him, here's where I'm going. You can get, so they had no leverage whatsoever in a trade.
And it's a mammoth contract. A mammoth contract.
Right, he's overpaid.
Yeah.
He's good, but not great.
So here's this hulking boulder,
Yeah.
and you don't even get to decide where you drop it.
Right.
So that was
Yeah, so there's no comparison really to other situations.
no Porzingis. They could actually get assets for,
Right.
And they would have Zach. I love Zach. Like I have a ton of respect for Zach. I
Yeah.
think he's terrific at what he does. He knows better than to throw that out there. That's never going to happen because why would the Wizards want Jared Allen and I was going to say trash, but I'm trying to be nice to the people involved.
Yeah.
But why would the Wizards want any part of that deal? You could actually get a number one for Porzingis right now today.
Yeah.
That is far better than anything else on that list. They don't want Jared Allen at $20 million a year. Jared Allen, I know everyone's down on him now. I know. I get it. And ultimately, I don't know that you can play two non-shooting bigs together. We've had that conversation 100 times. But I think that there is value to Jared Allen, just not to the Wizards. So there's no way that ever gets done, and I don't know why they bother to throw that out there. That's a waste of time.
Man, every single day, I wake up and somebody got a problem with my trades. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, the Cavs are screwed. They're screwed because the reason we overvalue Jared Allen is because we know he's not that good and we can't get anything for him. So instead of just being like we're stuck with a contract that's bad from a guy who can't space the floor, we'll hope all of a sudden he gets some sort of game. We can't do anything.
But there is a lot of value.
Trade him, right? Like
there is value to Jared Allen. There really is.
Just not to get the guys that everybody wants to get. You got to be realistic about who you can get.
Right. I mean, the listen, the Cavs don't have any trade assets, guys. Like they pushed everything. They opened the cupboard door and they threw everything at Utah. Right. There is nothing left. They cannot trade a first-round pick until the year of our Lord 2031.
That's
like
crazy.
Well, they can do those swaps.
They can't even do that. They gave Utah the swaps.
That is crazy.
They have
for those other years, they give Utah.
Yes,
swaps.
and they gave Utah swaps in 26. Utah controls the Cavs draft from what is it, 25 through 30 to 29.
So,
yes.
Jay, here to me is the more important question that you guys need to answer, and I will answer as well. Should the Cavs at this point, you said, we keep asking, can you win with two big guys that can't shoot from distance?
No.
It feels like you can't win that way in this NBA. So it seems to me that they really have to trade Jared Allen to develop some sort of new mix. So at this point, if you're the Cavs, does it make sense to shop him, see what the best offer you can get is, and do it?
Yes.
What you need is what you can't get for Jared Allen.
Yeah.
You need playmaking wings. You need guys who can 3-and-D guys, shoot guys who can handle the ball a little bit.
But you can get somebody, maybe not as good as you'd like. I mean,
but what Jarrett provides you defensively, there's value there, and you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
no, but I'm not saying give him away for nothing.
No.
I'm saying get the best you can. Is the best you can get worth trading him?
I don't know. I'm not in on those conversations. But here's like the little cheat code that fixes the two non-shooting bigs. If Evan Mobley learns to friggin' shoot, that makes this look a whole lot easier. Now, is it realistic to think that, I mean, he regressed as a three-point shooter this year. Is it realistic to think that he's going to jump to 35% next year? Probably not. But if Evan develops on the perimeter a little bit more the way that they thought that he would and the way that I still think he can, it doesn't always come on our timeline, right?
Sure.
Like he's going into year 3, and it doesn't always happen the way that we want it to happen to. But if he takes another step, that alleviates a lot of the two non-shooting bigs thing. I think that Jarrett, what he provides defensively, I know everyone's down on him. Everyone is yelling at him over the next thing. I get it. But I just think that we're overlooking that there is still a lot of good that he does. And I have said, and I still say, yes, I would entertain the thought of trading him. Yes. I just don't know that the deal is out there that's going to bring you back what you need. The Cavs have done the hard part. Like, I think I put that in the group text. Theoretically, like getting the stars, developing the core pieces, that's really hard to do. They've got that part down. This is supposed to be the easy part in filling out the rest of the roster, finding shooting. That's supposed to be a lot easier than finding the Donovan Mitchell piece, the Darius Garland piece, the Evan Mobley. That's what, I don't know the exact number, 22 teams around the league are trying to do that. They've got that part.
Yeah.
They need everything else.
Well, here's the problem is while we're doing that and they think that they're going to magically, the Evan Mobley, I have a problem banking when you're trying to win today. I got a problem asking a 20-year-old to be the savior. And I think we've asked Evan Mobley to turn into Kevin Garnett. And he has not shown that that's even in his game plan. Like Chris Bosh, like he's not even a better shooter than Bosh at this point. Could he get there? Sure. He could be a LaMarcus Aldridge and develops 5-6 years away from now. But the reality of it is, once you made the trade for Donovan Mitchell, now you in the game. You here, front row and center. That's why they tell people no snitching. You know what happens if you snitch, right? You're here for a reason. You know what comes with the game when you do bad things. Take your responsibility. The Cavs are here today. They made the trade as a bunch of swaps, so they don't have assets. So you have to look at it and say, oh, what is my best trade chip to get better? Well, there's two ways you can look at it. One is Jared Allen. One is Donovan Mitchell. And if you trade Donovan Mitchell this year to get the most from him, you just admitted that you made a grave mistake because that means you traded your whole future for 1 year in which you lost in the first round.
You can't
trade him.
No, you're not trading Donovan Mitchell.
No.
But other teams, like the Miami Heat, who are now interested in Damian Lillard, they look at you like, oh, I smell blood in the water. Because every team in the East is looking to get better because it's a crapshoot. It's up in the air. The Celtics are looking at Porzingis. The Celtics wouldn't mind getting Kyle Kuzma. All these other teams feel like their window is open too. And the Cavs can't sit there and just put their head in the sands and say, well, Jared Allen provides defense. No, Jared Allen provides defense in the regular season. We've seen what his defensive prowess was in playoff time. It was 0.
Well, it was 0, but it was also 1. It was, I don't know. I'm not. I don't.
It's
love,
a small sample size.
Yeah,
it was 0. He's right. It's 0.
Right.
But it was
negative.
a small sample size.
And he's been to the playoffs before.
Yeah,
he played in Brooklyn.
Yeah. I was confused.
But a couple things. Number one, they're not asking Mobley to save them. That's Donovan and Darius's job. They're asking Mobley to stretch the floor. It's a big difference. You don't have to carry the entire franchise. And number two, the whole idea, like, I know, like, we've talked about it in the past about Damian Lillard. Should the Cavs go after Damian Lillard, should Denver, what year is Jokic in? What do we say, 8? He's in year 8?
This was the 8th year,
What's Murray, year 7?
I think 6. Maybe, no, it's 9 and 7. That's what it is, 9 and 7. Jokic is 2 years older than Murray.
Okay, so should Denver have traded Jamal Murray for Russell Westbrook after his second or third year? Like, you know, you're shortcutting. You're already up against it now with Donovan and the amount of time that you have against him. We've covered that. If you were to do something rash and go get another veteran who's not going to be here for long, you had a window that was quite long and slammed it shut. And that just doesn't make sense to me because, again, we want these things right now, and I get it. As fans, you want it right now. But it took Denver 7 and 9 years with their two best players for it to figure it all out. And the Cavs, the Donovan thing is a separate conversation. And you don't have that long with Donovan.
Right.
But you do have Darius and Evan that long. And so I just don't think that you start rushing to make knee-jerk emotional trades now that's going to cut off what you could have. It may not happen in year 3.
I get what you're saying.
But there's year 4, year 5, year 6.
But
with these
That's
guys
not
as well.
enough. I just don't believe. I don't believe Darius and Mobley are enough.
What I was going to ask is, like, that's a big that's almost saying, well, we think Darius and Mobley are going to be Murray and Porzingis. Not Porzingis.
But
Jokic.
in year 4 and year 2 of Jokic and Murray, did you ever think they would win a championship together?
Probably not.
Probably
no.
not. And that's what I'm saying. You just don't know where it's going. But Darius is really friggin' good. And Evan is unbelievably talented.
And that's why,
now.
to me, the answer is getting the most you can get for Al. Well, who's the best guy? Mike, Jason, whatever. Who do you think is the best wing shooter that you could realistically get for Jared Allen?
Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah, it's not an elite guy because we talked about it before on the show.
Yeah.
When you have, it's like a quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
It's like starting pitching in baseball. When you have it, you don't get rid of it.
But if
When
Tim,
we do the
is
trade
Tim
value
would you trade Jared Allen for Tim Hardaway Jr.?
No, I don't think I would. No.
When we do the trade value thing in a sec,
Yeah.
positional value matters, and
Yeah.
a non-shooting big in today's NBA does not have the equivalent value of a player of Allen's skill set to a much less skilled wing. But because they play different positions and shooting and 3 and D guys are so much more valuable, you'd be downgrading the overall talent level on your team.
So hold on, let me get this right. So Kobe Altman gave a big contract to a non-shooting big who is now here he can't get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
He then made multiple pick swaps with Utah and gave away all our picks forever. He knew Donovan Mitchell probably wasn't going to sign a offer sheet, an extension here. And now you don't have any cap space or draft picks to do anything, and you are as is.
I mean, in fairness to him, we were all. I
But we all
was
loved
in favor
it.
of all those moves.
But we loved it.
Yeah.
And their top 4 is pretty friggin' good.
Yeah.
Against a lot of other teams.
And for all.
And they're still going to get better. Like,
And you're right. And for all the complaining you and I are doing, they might run it back with the same team and have some success in the playoffs next year.
Absolutely.
Just because they didn't this year doesn't mean.
didn't we
they
have
won't
a
next
fence
year.
rider question last week? I wasn't here about like could they contend for a top 2 spot?
Yeah,
in the
you
East?
and me were the only ones who
I
said
said
yes.
yeah. I mean, contend and earn are 2 different words.
Right. And I wouldn't break up the. I just feel like, and yes, it's to some degree, it's definitely prisoner of the moment. But it feels like Jared Allen is an out of place player in this generation of basketball.
When they signed him to the deal, I had conversations with people in
Yeah.
there in the organization going, you could scheme him off the floor in a playoff series. Is that really worth $20 million?
Yeah.
And I've kind of flip-flopped multiple times on that where I thought, oh, they overpaid. And then watching him thought, no, he can play. He can stay on the floor. And then watching how the Knicks guarded him.
Yeah.
But again, it's not necessarily the Jared Allen problem. It's the Mobley piece. Mobley has to shoot better. And if Mobley, I think they expected Mobley to take a step last year in his shooting. That didn't come. Now, I'm still incredibly high on Evan Mobley, but he did not shoot the ball as well as they hoped that he would. Again, if Mobley is a stretch 4, which he's not yet, but had he evolved into more of that player, if he took that step, it's a lot easier to play Jared Allen.
That's right. And you know what? In the end, as bad as Jared Allen was in the playoffs, the number one reason they lost in the playoffs is because Donovan Mitchell didn't play like a superstar.
He was terrible.
That was the number
terrible.
one reason.
Yeah.
So, for all the flaws, and they're all fair, if Donovan Mitchell had played like a superstar, maybe the Cavs win that series and we're thinking differently.
Hey, look, I tell them like this.
Yeah.
Same thing I told the Browns. Hey, look, if you want to just run it back, and that's just what you want to do, understand that if you don't perform next year, all bets are off. The whole thing, you're next to a small teardown. Like if you want to say we're not going to do much and you didn't do anything and you saw other people around the league doing stuff and they're getting better, they're going out and getting guys, and you don't do well next year, understand that means your coach is probably looking at an unemployment line.
Yeah.
Oh, JB will get fired.
And Donovan Mitchell will get traded.
Or Donovan Mitchell will request a trade.
Yeah. If they run it back basically with some different parts and pieces on the end and lose in the first round again, yeah, it's a total disaster.
They have to develop the margins now. They have to find shooting.
Yeah.
On the margins. Shooting. I've said
Do
it
they have
a million times.
Do they have any? They don't have much cap room though.
No, I mean, they've got the mid-level exception. They can spend about $12.5 million. 12.5, I think is the number. 10 or 12, something like that, which doesn't go as far anymore as it used to.
Right.
Quite honestly. But they can add a serviceable piece, a rotational piece with that. 100%. But they also they either need Dean Wade to pull himself together and get over whatever happened. But again, you're not asking Dean Wade to carry you.
No, I know.
You're asking Dean Wade to make 3 threes a night and grab a few rebounds.
You're asking him to be a rotational player.
Yeah, you're just asking him to make a couple of threes and grab a couple of rebounds. That's it. It's not a high bar.
No,
that you're
that's
asking
not.
for.
I agree.
The indictment, and this is, to me, this is a little bit of indictment. Well, when we talk about the Nuggets, guess what the Nuggets did? They developed bench players. When you talk about the Heat came out there with Jimmy Butler and Bam and a bunch of undrafted guys. Listen, if you want to play the small ball game and the Cavs don't want to go over the cap and we don't want to get rid of our 4, well, is it not reasonable to say, develop me somebody.
Yeah.
Get me somebody.
I mean, that's on JB.
Where's your G League guys? Where's the guy that was a diamond in the rough? Where's those guys?
They haven't done that.
Well, they have. I can't believe how much time I've spent defending the Cavs today.
Man,
My
I'm
goodness.
looking for him.
Who
But
knew Jason would become a Cavs apologist in his old age?
But I mean, now they need to develop shooting.
Yeah.
The guys that they haven't really shot it necessarily, although Dean Wade should be one of those guys. Like Dean Wade is an undrafted guy that they developed. They gave him a $25 million contract. Like, that's one of those guys that fits exactly what you're talking about. He just lost his mind when Kevin left, and it just completely unraveled.
So, by the way, for all the criticism we leveled at the Cavs, myself included, for cutting Kevin Love, not when it happened, but later, he was a non-factor for Miami, I think.
He played.
The Cavs wouldn't have won this.
He played in the NBA Finals and started. Yeah, he wasn't saving them from the Knicks, but
right. He played a role. He filled a need.
Sure.
He filled a need that the Cavs had, rebounding and 3-point shooting.
But they still probably lose that Knicks series.
Oh, he's not the player that he was.
Yeah.
But anyway, like Lamar Stevens is a guy that they have developed. They picked up off the scrap heap. They developed him. Dean Wade's another one. Now, again, you need shooting. You've got to have shooting. They've got to develop shooting and find shooters. But they have actually done a better job, I think, under this regime than they did.
Yeah, but those guys are not guys they were comfortable using when it mattered.
They didn't use them.
Yes, but again, like the Cavs got here way faster than I thought they could.
Okay, that's fair.
They sped up their own timetable, so.
But now that's got to happen.
Like the guys that Miami used.
Yeah.
They weren't guys that were minimum guys. Undrafted rookie guys, like they've been in the system for a couple of years.
That's fair.
So it takes a little bit of time to do this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, if you go back, this was one of the criticisms I had of like the first rebuild. Who aside from Delhi, who did they find and develop and turn into something, a useful piece off a scrap heap or on the margins? Really nobody. This team got off to a terrible start. This version, those first couple of post-LeBron years this time were awful. But they've done a nice job of finding the Lamar Stevens, the Dean Wades, the throwaway guys, and developing them into useful rotational pieces. Now, they didn't help you in the playoffs because you got to have shooting in the playoffs. You have got to be able to shoot,
and
that's the next step. They've got to find shooters.